my name is Pascale Gibon, and I am delighted to welcome you to the Everyday Life Balance Show, the podcast for men and women who want to create more balance and harmony in their life on the mental, physical, and spiritual level. Every Monday, you get access to insights, practical tools, and strategies on well-being, personal development, life fulfillment, and success from experts in their field and from me, your change catalyst. It is my mission to guide you to happiness and help you find greater joy, inner peace, and balance. This is an invitation to you, the listener, to transform your life one step at a time. Hi, I'm Pascale Gibon, and today is a special day because you are celebrating with me episode 100 of the Everyday Life Balance Show. Can you believe it that it is today the 100th episode of the show? Welcome to episode 100. You make it possible, so I want to thank you for listening to me today. It is my pleasure to share with you every week tips, strategies, and insights on how you can live a happier, more joyful, and balanced life, and to have also on the show other experts. However, remember that the people I invite on the show and myself are just messengers, and you are the actor in your own movie, playing the leading role. I have a few surprises for you today, and the first one is that I have a special prize for the first 3 people who subscribe today to the Everyday Life Balance Show. I will announce the full details at the end of the show. Let's start with the second surprise. So my guest today to celebrate 100 episodes of the Everyday Life Balance Show is Chris James. And Chris was actually the first person I interviewed for the first episode, which was entitled How to Keep Your Mind and Body in Balance. Hi, Chris.
Hi, Pascale. It's so nice to come back after all this time. But the question I have to ask you is, why is it taking 100 episodes to invite me back?
This is a very good question. And actually, I've been really, really selective with my interviewees, and I haven't been interviewing a lot of people, but I did invite you back since you launched, obviously, your book, Mind, Body Cleanse, the 12-day plan to heal your body and re-energize your mind. So we just haven't found yet, the right time for us to cover the book and share it with our listeners. The reason why I asked Chris to come back again for the 100th episode is to share with you, our listeners, how to feel more balanced on a daily basis. And I would like Chris to share 3 tips or 3 rituals on how our listeners can feel balanced on a daily basis. What is your first tip?
So, Pascale, it's great to be here on your show. And really, first of all, I have a semantic question for you, actually. And this is about what do you actually mean by balance?
For me, it's more to do with remaining in a state of peace or really activating peace on a daily basis. So being in that state of calmness, of stillness, of peace, in order to overcome any obstacle that might get in the way, during the day. So starting the day in such a way that you are ready to tackle the day.
Okay, so really, if this question is about how do I create balance in my life, then this is going to be very different to how does one theoretically create balance in their life. Because obviously, if someone were trying to create a theoretical balance in their life, there are plenty of resources on the internet these days, especially with the explosion of the wellness industry and the amount of information that's out there on it. But these days, of course, creating balance in my life probably has progressed a little in the last few years, in as much as Now I'm a father to my son, to my 14-month-old son, Joshua. So balance becomes a kind of more of an abstract ideal, I think, a lot of the time, because you are sleep deprived, and balance has more to do with sleep than having enough sleep than anything. And having a child, your priorities change in as much as you start to see the world through the lens of your child. So it isn't just about me anymore. It's not just about your own. I wanted to use the word self-indulgent, because for me now it's self-indulgent, but it's not really. So I think at that level, but I think in terms of balance, well, I can probably give you a very good understanding what that's all about. Having a, as you know, being in it, an experience as a yoga meditation teacher, I'd say that really the way that I see it is, first of all, I'd see balance as being separated. If you have three ways to understand balance, first of all, you'd have balance defined spiritually, and then you'd have the mind and body component. And spiritually, for me, balance is about continuing to explore my relationship with Christ as a Christian, and to continue to live a faithful and obedient life, which I imagine is about experiencing joy in your life, is about experiencing the gifts of the Spirit in your life, which is, to me, really where it all starts. So if you were to talk about a funnel, for example, this is the epitome of the funnel. This is where it starts. In terms of how I manage my affairs, how I manage my mind and body, well, as you know, I have a 360-degree approach to how I live my everyday life, how I manage my affairs, like in terms of my asana practice, in terms of my meditation practice, which also, of course, dovetails with my prayerful practice as well. And in terms of my mind and body, I run as well, which I very much enjoy, which is important for me. For my CV levels, I enjoy the combination between asana and running.
Mm-hmm.
And I have my whole Kriya and Ayurvedic component as well, which is about fasting, intermittent fasting, cleansing. And I know you're very familiar with the range of detox and cleanse programs and products we have online, and that with our partners as well in that space. And I still practice what I preach there, in terms of I spend at least 35 to 40 days a year fasting. Mm-hmm. So I'm very much an adherent of this, and I tend to separate my fasts into 12-day fasts, and I do 3 to 4 12-day fasts a year. And sometimes I do different types of fasts. Sometimes I'm just about to start a 30-day fast, which is going to be interesting, which is going to be like a vegan stroke liquid fast for 30 days. But I really need it, because, my goodness, having a young child, you're just really challenged in a way.
You need a lot of energy, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, of course, when you don't have a child, you can rely on them. I'm always used to rely on the fact, I've got 8 or 9 hours sleep, because I was always such a good sleeper, and still am. But I could rely on 8 or 9 hours sleep. That's my point, and therefore I could rely on this, that, and the other. But these days I can't, because in the middle of the night my hair is tugged. If he's if he's in bed and it's tugged so hard that it wakes me up, and he screams, and as all little children do. So that's just one spoke out of the wheel. So it's not like it becomes easy to do these things. So yeah. But anyway, I think it's definitely time that I tuned my engine again. So I'm just about to embark on a 30-day challenge.
Okay. Wow. Sounds very exciting.
I actually did the 30-day challenge last year.
Okay.
Which was great. And I'm going to do another one this year.
Mm-hmm. So you're going to be like mainly like fasting, or you're going to be like doing 2 weeks of solids and then the rest of liquids? How do you normally do it for 30 days?
So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to combine 2 12-day cleanses, which is the program that we're known for. And I'm going to do a liquid fast inside of that. So the way it's going to work is I'm going to do 6 days prep. I'm going to do 6 days pre-purification. I'm going to do 6 days power, a 7-day liquid cleanse in addition, and then 6 days maintenance.
Wow. Okay. God, it's going to be full on, but you're going to be feeling amazing after that. That's for sure. For someone, who's really new to this, really new to probably fasting or intermittent fasting or cleansing, what would you recommend in terms of daily practice they could have?
Well, I mean, there's so many things that I could talk about right now, Pascale, in terms of all the different programs and intermittent programs and ways to fast that are probably the best thing for somebody who's thinking about fasting or intermittent fasting for the first time would be to come to one of my workshops, because I do a very popular workshop on intermittent fasting and career for self-care, coming up at Utopia Yoga on the 23rd of this month, and then at Down to Earth, I think at the beginning of January. So you'd have to go onto my events page on my website, chrisjamesmindbody.com/events, where I could talk over all the various different possibilities in a workshop format. But I mean, in terms of fasting and intermittent fasting, well, we've created the program, 12 days program, that I know that you've done lots of times yourself, and we've had tens of thousands of customers over the years who've done this, and I do it a few times every year, which is a 12-day gluten-free vegan fast with liquid in the kind of around about the middle, combined with herbs and supplements that help to accelerate the natural processes of detoxification, etc., that does a really good job. So if you're interested in that, then you can visit one of our channel partners or our website.
Okay, excellent. Do you want to recap your 3 tips to feel more balanced?
The first tips is interesting because the first show that we did, you asked me to do it, and I was really humbled to be asked to do the first one with you, Pascale, as you know, and now it's the 100th one. So I think my first tip would be a type of alpha and omega spiritual tip, which is the ultimate tip of I think really experiencing faith as a gift. But I don't think it's something that just you can demand. I don't think it's something that you can say, this is what I want now, because I think to have a relationship with Christ is an act of grace. And, I'm not too sure how many like-minded people you've had on your show to date, but in terms of balance, once you have this one particular vertical relationship sorted out in your life, all of the other horizontal relationships are sorted, because it creates the structure, dynamic, or whatever the right word is, to understand, all of those things with. And then after that, comes how you manage your mind and your body, which is about doing a couple of seasonal Ayurvedic cleanses in the year. And inside of all that, practicing your asana and your meditation, which is the other side of the same coin to prayer, and knowing the rules so you know how to break them properly. And then finally, hopefully, somewhere in the lines, you'll get enough sleep.
Okay, that's wonderful. Thank you so much for your insight with regard to how you are creating balance in your own life right now, and how our listeners could take some of it on board for their own life. So I would like also to thank you, Chris, really, for being part of the Everyday Life Balance Show. You know that you are welcome at any time. And please remind us that your website again, if our listeners would like to have more information.
Yeah, the website address is at chrisjamesmindbody.com. You can also find us at social media. If you're on Instagram, it's Chris James Mindbody. If you're on Facebook, it's Chris James Mindbody. If you're still on Twitter, it's CJ Mindbody. And I think that's and you can also, if you're curious, you can send an email to hello@chrisjamesmindbody.com.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Chris.
Thank you so much, P. It's great to hear your voice.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
You've guessed it, I've got the second guest with me today, and that's Ivona Gordon. Hi, Ivona.
Hi. Thank you for inviting me here again. I can't believe the 100th episode. You're doing amazing work. Well done to you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for, first of all, being part of it, being part of the Everyday Life Balance Show. And I don't know whether you remember, we did an interview together on relationships, so how to get relationship ready. That's a very popular episode. Thank you again for sharing the listeners how to get relationship ready. Today, I would like you to share with us your 3 tips on how to create more balance on a daily basis. What would be your 3 tips or your 3 rituals in order to create more balance?
Right. Yeah, when I was trying to slim it down, it was really hard. So I cheated a little bit and merged a couple into one.
Does it mean that there's a bonus?
I know, you get a few bonuses thrown in there.
Okay.
So I'm going to explain my tips from my life, from my perspective, what works for me. It may resonate with some or it may be dismissed, but this is me. This is what works for somebody who's of a mature age and has gone through quite a lot. And I think this year in particular, there's been a lot of reflections, and I've started to think, how do I get that balance in my life, that healthy balance? So are you ready for tip number 1?
Definitely for healthy balance tips.
Okay. The first thing is to set your day and your night up well. So I've kind of merged 2 tips in. And what I do in the morning, I make sure I get up at a reasonable time. So, for example, if I've got a meeting, I'm not going to get up and rush out. I need to do what I do first. And what I do, I tend to follow sort of like a daily plan. As a Christian, I read some scriptures. I read what's going on for me, what's really important for me. So it could be about trust. I go into the plan and read some of the scriptures about trust. I do a lot of gratitude in the morning. I set my mind up well. How would I want the day to be? And especially if there are challenges, I would look to God above to help me, to guide me, to make sure I'm in the right state in that morning. So it's very, very important for me to feel at peace in the morning and not do what I used to do a couple of years ago, which was just to jump out and go straight in there. I have to set my day out and say, how do I want to be? What's my intention for today? And to seek guidance. So there's a lot of preparation, a lovely preparation.
You start your morning with the right intention as well, from what I can hear.
Yeah. Absolutely. So if you're not with faith and you don't pray, there could be things you would want to do, which could be your positive affirmations, whatever works with you. But for me, it's important to have the right mental state, a positive mental state, and get your energy right. Because there is things out there that some of it which we can't control, but we need to make sure that we're at peace with ourselves. We don't know what's going to happen. So if you set your intention, like it could be today, I'm going to be calm, regardless of what's going to go on around me, I'm going to remain calm and focused. So that's what I do in the morning. And I suppose that's part A of tip 1, and part B of tip 1,
okay,
see, I'm cheating, is to make sure your day ends well. So have some quiet time. I'm sure you'll resonate with this, Pascale. Quiet time just to reflect on the day, just to reflect on what worked well, what didn't work as well, and what you're going to do the next day. But just focus on the gratitude, because we could be so focused on all the things that we thought we were going to do and they didn't happen, and to go to bed really tense. So for me, it's really, really important to end my day in a calm state, hopefully similar to what the morning state was about. Again, I may pick up some scriptures, some words just to calm me down, and also listen to really calming music, some calming words. And I think that's really important for your well-being. Okay.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. That's great to really remember, like you said, so you start the morning with the right intention, but really end the day also in a state of peace and calmness as well. And that's so important because, we can get worried about a lot of things. So you're preparing really also for a great night's sleep as well, I guess, in the process.
And I suppose part of that, as you're reflecting, there may be things, I suppose this is a 1C of tip number 1, is maybe just to jot it down. I've got a whiteboard, and if there's things I would like to do for the next day, I just put it on the whiteboard. Not too many things, but at least it comes out of my head, and I don't go to sleep with it, and I put it on the whiteboard.
Yeah, that's so important.
Are clear.
Yeah. Excellent. And so what's your tip number 2?
Tip number 2. It's about thinking what goes in your mouth. I've been going through a process. This is the 3rd week of healthy eating, and it's vegan-based. And it was a lot of fasting and prayer. But you know what? I feel so good. Yes, I miss some of the foods that I usually eat, like your chicken, not so much meat. And my tea, I have had no caffeine for 2 weeks. I've been drinking herbal tea, lemon and water, a lot of plant-based things. And we just got to be mindful what we go through, because I wasn't sleeping before. That's the interesting thing. I wasn't sleeping as well as I should have. Even though I would go to bed and I'd say my prayers, I used to feel quite sick in my stomach. And it was things that were disagreeing with me. And through this process, I realised that some dairy products, some heavy eating, some biscuit binging at night doesn't sit well. And it affects your moods. It will affect your mood a lot. So tip number 2 is just be mindful what goes in your mouth, right? I'm not perfect, and it's not saying I'm not going to grab a glass of wine at the end of my process. I'm going to do that, but I'm going to be conscious of what I eat, because when you're eating, and especially when it's plant-based and vegan-based, you really appreciate food. You take it and you're so, so grateful. And I've done this before. I don't know if you've experienced this. Suddenly everything is clear. You're looking at the trees and it's like, yeah, they're green.
It's quite interesting because I went through the same experience beginning of the year, so around February time. I also went on the cleanse, but I did the gluten-free diet, completely gluten-free. And what you say about your taste buds changing is unbelievable. Like, you really taste the real vegetables. It's incredible.
Yeah.
I was on a sugar-free diet too as well. And it's true that you feel much more energized, much more clearer. Your eyes are clearer too. And it's quite interesting that then when you probably reintroduce stuff that is not as good, you can taste it. You can taste that, it's probably chemically based and it's not really nourishing the body as it should. I had exactly the same experience this year as you had.
Yeah. There's so many benefits, really. And why not? And, I suppose some people may feel that they won't be full up by eating plant-based and pulses, but you end up so full, You're just substituting other things with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it makes you a little bit more inventive as well. So instead of eating the same thing all the time, you think of other ways you can improve your diet by seeking other recipes and buying, new ingredients and so on. So there's a really creative side to it as well, which I found was quite fun.
Yeah, it really is. Trying things that you hadn't seen or tasted before, you kind of mix it all together. And for me, I always have to have a little bit of Scotch bonnet for extra spice.
Okay.
Because the flavour. So for me, that is important. Tip 2, just think healthy by what you put in your mouth.
Yeah.
Because it not affects you physically, but mentally, emotionally, there's so many benefits. And for me, yes, it's combined with praying and actually getting what I want or what I need in the process. That's tip number 2 for you.
Fantastic. And now let's hear about tip number 3.
But 3, all right, I had to think long and hard. What can I capture that will capture so many different tips? It's about being honest. At the beginning of the year, I know a lot of people think, what is the word for you for that year? And my word was truth. Mm-hmm. And the truth is the sense of being honest about what you believe in, your values, being honest with yourself, as well as being honest with other people. So let me give you an example. I think some months ago, I would end up rushing to help somebody. I mean, that's okay. But when it's overboard, right, at the expense of my own needs and what I need for me, and if I'm feeling run down, I will, feel quite low, burnt out. And there are times when you have to be honest and say no, not now. And another example really was my daughter was saying, oh, could you pick this thing up that I ordered at Argos? And in the past, I would have said, yes. And I thought to myself, I'm not going to do it today. I said, I'll do it tomorrow. I'm feeling tired. So it's knowing what's going on for you and not being in fear of what somebody else is going to say. You don't need to seek validation.
Yeah.
You're not being horrible. You're just filling yourself up if there is a need to be honest and say no. The world is not going to collapse by you refusing to do something at a certain time. So that's on being honest with yourself. And then if you flip it on the other side about being honest with other people, and if I'm talking about, say we're talking relationships, whether it's intimate relationships or other types of relationships, there is no point holding back on something that somebody may have done, right? And thinking, I best not mention it to them, they'll get upset. It's best to be honest, especially if a relationship is not working, if somebody said something to you that it didn't sit well with you, right? You're responsible for your own feelings and they will be responsible for how they respond. So for your own well-being, I would suggest to be more open, more honest. And sometimes you don't know where to start. And this is when the journaling comes through, when you're trying to make sense of it. You're writing it down. You're writing down how you're feeling and how you want to be. So that's key to be. And you feel really lighter when you're being honest, when you're being truthful. So that's my 3rd tip, to be honest, be more open, be, I suppose, more authentic.
Yeah, so be honest, be more authentic with yourself and with others as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
It goes both ways. These are great tips. I love it. And I hope that our listeners will take some of it on board and be able to make a difference in their life. But whether it is 1 tip or 2 tips, it doesn't make any difference. But it's really to get started to have one strategy that you can use on a daily basis to bring in more peace, more comfort, more ease in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. Just try one thing. And just to remind you of what I've just said, set up your day and night well. So don't rush into the day and don't rush to bed without kind of getting rid of stuff that may affect the next day. So set your day and night up well. Think about what goes into your mouth. Think of the good, the rich stuff that will really help you think and move in a really positive and a healthy way. And just be honest, as Pascale said, be honest with yourself and be honest with others. And you can feel that weight lift from your shoulders as you become really, your true self. So those are my 3 tips.
Thank you so much, Ivona. It's been wonderful talking to you today. And again, thank you for being part of the Everyday Life Balance Show. And you can come back at any time you have something to share with our listeners. And I look forward to connecting with you soon.
Thank you so much for having me here, and keep going from strength to strength. You're doing amazing work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hi, I would like to introduce you to my third guest today, and that's the author and life coach, Silvana Avram. She's an inspirational coach, in fact, to be more precise. Hi, Silvana.
Hi, Pascale. A pleasure to be here with you today.
Great. Thank you so much, first of all, for agreeing to be part of the Everyday Life Balance Show, which I started back in June 2017. So thank you for being part of it. And I remember you were interviewed for this episode that we entitled How to Love Yourself More. And Silvana,
yes.
Do you remember that?
Of course I do, yes.
And I invited you because you are also the author of the book Being You and Loving You.
Mm-hmm.
So the purpose of today's episode is really to get you insight on 3 tips I would like you to share with our listeners on how to create a balanced life on a daily basis. What would be your tips, your recommended ritual?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, thank you again for inviting me. It's always a pleasure to talk to you and, to talk to your wonderful audience. I would say, Pascale, my first tip is wake up early. Wake up earlier than you normally do.
Okay.
I started this several years ago, and it really works miracles. So the point of doing that, I know people say, "Oh God, please don't make me do that." It's not like that. I think is creating that me time for yourself at the beginning of every day. It's extremely important. It's almost like a sacred space you create for yourself. So listen, this can go from 5-10 minutes to 1 hour. The longer, the better, of course. But if you create this time, if you make that, a must first, if you create a ritual there, as you were saying, make it a routine, make it like at the same level as brushing your teeth. Make sure that you do that, commit to it and stick to it.
So what would be the me time then in that case? What are the things that you would include as part of the me time?
You could use this time to meditate. You could use it to write down some affirmations or visualize, your day if you are into that kind of stuff. If you can do a bit of yoga, I do a half an hour yoga. So for me, for example, I wake up and then I sit and meditate quietly for 5-10 minutes just to connect with myself, with the day. And then I also like to visualize my day. And I feel that it's almost like this very used phrase now, that you are taking control of your day. You're not allowing it to overwhelm all those things that come at you. Oh God, I have to do this and I have to do that. No, you're making sure that first 10 minutes, half an hour of the day is dedicated to you, to your dreams, to what you want to achieve in that day. So I think that this time is really, it's going to prove invaluable for you. It's a bit difficult to start with. The point is to wake up a bit earlier than you normally do. You know that you normally wake up, at 7. Try to wake up at 6 or 6:30 and work around it. Dedicate that time at the beginning of every day to you and your dreams. Connect your dream. Because the point is that, I'd like to say this, making that time for you in the morning basically sends a subtle message to your subconscious mind that you value yourself, that you put yourself and your dreams first. That's the very point that we're trying to make there. And obviously, you can think about, I can do that later during the day. But really, morning is the only day when you can guarantee that you're perhaps not going to be distracted if you make sure that that's the case. Because during the day, things happen, it's very easy to get derailed later on. So morning is the best time to do that. And again, it's symbolic. It's the beginning of a new day. It's the promise that comes with a new day. And it's a very empowering feeling. I'm not normally that much of a morning person, but it was relatively easy for me to start, and you think, wow, I'm doing this for myself. And, sometimes I read a chapter from an inspiring book. Sometimes I'm just sitting there and wondering, wow, this is a new day, and look around and listen to the birds and so on. It's that kind of thing, but it's really committing to and creating a little space for yourself every morning.
You said that you're not an early person and you managed to do it, so anyone can do it as well.
Are you really committed to your dreams? Do you really want to create that life that you always say? Well, start small. Commit to this time every morning. And then it becomes part of your daily routine and it becomes part of your life. You can do so much more. The point is that actually you start with 10 minutes and then you want to increase it because you feel so good about it. And, for some people it can be just listening to an audio meditation or listening to some classical music, but it's just that me time. That's very, very important.
Yeah, and also the 10 minutes can be also very impactful as well.
Oh, absolutely. If you stay focused, of course, don't check your phone, don't do all those things.
Yeah, so avoid any distraction.
Absolutely, because that is crucial. It's unbelievable how vulnerable we have become nowadays to do all this extra input. All the more, it's so important to take back control of that start of your day. I find it fascinating. I think in the morning, if I have a busy day, I can use that time to look at the day and send a good vibe and visualize the way I want it to happen and, see all those contacts and think of how I want to be that day. What kind of day do I want to create today? So it's so empowering because you feel like, oh yeah, I am a creator. I can give the vibe of this day. I don't have to take whatever comes my way. I actually have power to create that day for myself and to send out the message and the image I want to send to others. So it's good for everyone to try it and to sort of adjust things. You can create a little schedule for yourself. So, I'll start with 5 minutes meditation and connection. Then I write in my journal. Then I visualize. I write some affirmations. I do yoga. And if I still have time, I read one page from a wonderful book. That in itself already, it will prepare you for the day ahead in such a wonderful way.
So you personally allow yourself an hour to do all this, or
yes,
how long do you do it? Yeah,
for me,
an hour.
Somewhere between an hour, half an hour and an hour.
Okay.
But really on busy days, and there have been quite a few instances when I didn't have the luxury of that hour. But I still make it a point because then if you break it, if you don't do anything, then obviously that ritual, that routine is broken and you don't want that to happen. So if I find that I'm, that's busy day ahead, I just sit for 10, 15 minutes just in quiet meditation and allowing the silence, and I prepare for the day and nothing else. But that's more than enough. My ritual is in place. I didn't break my promise to myself. I did connect to myself that day.
Okay, so the first tip is to get up earlier yes. than you normally do every morning. What is the second tip?
And create some me time for yourself. My second tip, Pascale, is try to bring some mindfulness in the daily activities that you have to do throughout the day. So bring some mindfulness into your usual activities. What do I mean by that? Well, there are quite a few people that have started to do that because it's a very smart and the smartest and easiest way maybe to do so is to match activities. So, for example, I know quite a few people who listen to inspiring music or inspiring program while they're in the gym, or they listen to relaxing music on their journey. It's that sort of thing. What I mean by this one is bring that mindfulness, be aware. I mean, again, we were talking about that earlier. We are bombarded with so much input nowadays, the news, the newspapers, all of the things that come our way. They take our energy and our attention away from our life, from what is important in our life. So, for example, if you're one of those people who never seem to find time, I think this is a very important trick. Combine some of those activities. So, for example, you're waiting for your kid. Practical examples. You're waiting for your kids or for a colleague. You can use that time. But, sometimes these things sound a bit natural, but they're not. For some people, they have become unnatural. They don't do them. You can use that time to just look at the sky, to observe things around you rather than, again, checking your phone or engaging in conversations that are not leading anywhere. A bit of silence and mindfulness in every activity that you do. And again, smiling is another little trick. Again, people say, oh yeah, that's easy. Not really. We have forgotten to smile. I see that every day in London and everywhere. So people look so busy, like we're going to such important meetings and places, but you think, well, you've forgotten about yourself. Smiling, for example, it immediately relaxes you and also has an amazing impact on others. I try that sometimes, and I actually receive that someone smiles at me, and suddenly it changes me. I smile back. Oh, yeah, actually, it's a beautiful day, and so on. All of those things, they seem simple and natural, but I think we have moved away from that naturalness and that mindfulness. So, for example, for smiling, I came up with this idea some time ago. I don't know how, actually, but again, it was one part of this exercise, and I think, okay, I can come up with this trick. I tell myself, whenever I remember, I allow myself to smile. And you try it, and the immediate effect is that you actually smile. But it's more than that, because you give yourself permission. You give yourself permission to enjoy, to relax into that smile. So it's a little bit more subtle than it sounds. When, I forgot to smile today or something, say that to yourself, I allow myself to smile. And you see that you're smiling, and then you think, wow. Again, it's that sort of power that you give yourself. But again, I have to come back to this. So my second tip is bringing mindfulness to your normal activities every time you can remember. But then you can be very creative about this. I would say, you can mix those activities that you love doing. We're talking about that. For me, I love, for example, watching the sky, watching flowers, and so on. You can mix that to things that you have to do anyway, like commuting or like other things. I see lots of people in the tube reading a book, and I think that's absolutely amazing because they are away from the newspapers, from the phones, from all of those things. They are immersing themselves into a wonderful world that hopefully inspires them, assuming that they're reading a good book. And then again, people do that, go for a walk, take a short break, but take a real break. For example, so many people, I see that in London, they're at their office and their lunch break, and they use that break just to send more emails, do some more work. That's such a mistake, I would say, because first it gets them more and more tired, and secondly, it doesn't refresh their mind. So just taking a basic break there and going for a walk or just going in the zone, again, a small meditation or something, that will energize them and refresh the perspective and actually make them more productive later. There's so many scientists talking about that, that sort of small but very impactful break. Some people even talk about dozing off, that impactful sleep.
Yes, but probably like a 10-minute, 20-minute nap. Yeah, it's quite powerful too.
Absolutely, yeah. Mm-hmm. But for me, it has to be a bit easier than that. I don't think we can do that in every context. But it's just being a little bit more mindful, being back in touch with what's happening around you, with everything, with people, have that sort of, ground yourself, have that awareness. I mean, for me, ideally, I think if you have some silent moments when you can just breathe deeply, that's such a powerful, way of connecting again. That's my favorite thing. Just observe the world around me and look at people and look at the buildings wherever I am. In a park, of course, I love being in nature. But I just look around and actually for me, I do a little bit more than that. I send positive vibes. It's like I want to contribute to the world with some positive energy. And I do that sometimes consciously, I think. Let's send some good vibes. But, everyone can do whatever they think. But for me, the important thing is, and I know we talk a lot about mindfulness nowadays, but even that we have transformed that in a science in itself and so on. Just bring back those moments of mindfulness. I mean, in order for this to happen, you have to make it a point to do that. Sometimes you can actually, and I have done that, you can assess yourself at the end of the day and think, did I manage to do that today? How many moments of pure mindfulness and silence did I have today?
Well, I believe that if you set your intention anyway of being more mindful during the day, you will be. I think from my understanding, what you're saying, when you talk about bringing mindfulness into your usual activities, is to actually make it a little bit more fun as well, isn't it?
Yes, Absolutely, because I was saying, try to combine some of those activities that you do with joy anyway. For me, it's looking at people at the sky, sometimes looking at music, and you combine them with other activities that you have to do, like commuting, or as we were saying, waiting for your kids or shopping or whatever. So you're acting in a way smartly because you're taking several activities, but you bring that joy and that beauty into mundane activities that you otherwise think, oh, they're chores or something. So that's a very good trick. Any activity that you feel, oh, I don't really like doing that, try another activity that you love doing and match them together. There are so many ways in doing this.
Yeah, what I mean is that you can be spontaneous about it as well.
Absolutely. Once you have decided, you can allow those things to come to you. You can allow yourself to discover what are the things that I really enjoy.
Yeah,
That's
excellent.
Mindfulness. Yeah.
Excellent. So what is your third tip?
My third tip.
Mm-hmm.
Now this one, because I always like to be a little bit more provocative and philosophical, if you want to call it that name. And for me, in the end, a very, very important tip is, look, remember to put things into perspective as often as you can.
What do you mean by that?
What do I mean by that? I mean, ask the big questions. Why am I doing this? What is the meaning of what I'm doing right now? Am I on track with fulfilling my life's dream? Am I on track with fulfilling my potential? And if not, what can I do right now to get me closer to that dream? I see that very, very often people are frustrated. They want to change their lives, but they avoid asking the big questions. So how do you do that? You don't have to dedicate a week or a month of your life, go somewhere far away and sort it out. Sometimes that helps, and I think it does. But you can bring that in your daily, in your daily journey, in your daily routine. Every time you do something important or you make a decision, I think, wow, what is that? What am I actually doing here? Am I helping myself? Am I helping others? I think reintroducing those big questions into your life is really, to me, that's actually the biggest secret.
And how does it reinforce the feeling of balance?
Well, to me, for example, that type of perspective, that I'm thinking, and this brings me to the book that I'm writing right now. I haven't yet decided on the title, but it's something on the lines of living in eternity. And I know it sounds very big. It's ambitious, of course. But the point is, when you bring that perspective, you give yourself time in the morning, you give yourself that space and that perspective. Listen, this is my life. Every day is important because I'm creating that life that I want. Is this activity that I'm doing right now, is it going to matter that much in 20 or in 5 years, in 20 years, in eternity? It's almost, to me, the feeling is like everything expands when you bring in those questions. Rather than being stressed by, oh my God, what do I have to do in the next hour? You think, wow, I'm actually living in eternity, because everything that I do is, for me, it's, I always say, everything that we do, no matter, whether for that matter, what we think or what we say, I think you can imagine that it all is recorded in eternity. Like,
would you say that the balance is actually in giving your life meaning?
It's definitely related to that, but sometimes the meaning cannot be that obvious. You expand your perspective. You basically, tell yourself, what I'm doing now is part of a longer journey. Because very often we tend to just focus on the small detail, and that's where panic and that's where anxiety comes in. But you open this up and you think, wow, I'm on a journey here. And what I'm doing now, obviously, is part of that journey. But coming back to what I was saying earlier, is also it's recorded in eternity. So in a way that, of course, that brings a little bit of pressure on you, because you think, well, is what I'm about to do right now going to feel as important in eternity if I expand it that much? Will I want to remember it, or will I want to delete it? And from that point of view, you think, wow, it sort of brings, as you were saying, it brings meaning, it brings depth to your actions, but it also brings power back to you, because again, it makes you feel in charge, it makes you feel like a creator.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You're obviously harnessing also creative power on a daily basis.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because then this leads to basically taking time, and we're going back to the same thing. But you're taking time to embrace life. Because when you expand that, when you bring in that perspective, I think that's where that all the gratitude needs to come in. I think when you open that perspective, you allow yourself to embrace life. Life is such a gift. It is a gift. It's a wonderful opportunity. And I think we need to remind ourselves of that as often as we can. And I think we don't do that enough. I know it maybe sounds a little bit, but try it, stop and think, wow, where am I right now? What am I doing? It's amazing. I'm alive. And all these people around me are alive. And we know, interestingly, if you want to go sci-fi, so we're all in eternity and in infinite. I love those things. For me, I know it's not everyone's cup of tea. But for me, this triggers, infinity, eternity. I know they can be scary, but once you embrace them, they bring so much more to your life. That type of, they expand your life. Tell yourself, I'm allowed to bring that perspective. I encourage you to actually bring that perspective to your life. Because then what happens normally when you do that, you realize, wow, I was so serious. You don't have to be serious all the time. I always think there's a very fine balance. We're talking about balance between taking life seriously because we have to, and we have to, fulfill our duties and so on, and not taking yourself too seriously. When you open that perspective, you realize, I'm part of life, I'm part of the flow, and my contribution matters. And when you remind yourself that your contribution matters, then you want to make that contribution even better. It's all, it's all related.
Yeah, great. Silvana, that's fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing with our listeners really how they can create more balance with their life and really embrace the gift of life much more. So what would be...
I think that's very, very important. And, that's my message, that's your message, of course. But I really do encourage people. And one last thing I want to say, because it's linked to that, it's just being kind to yourself. I find that people in my coaching experience, that's one of the most delicate points that I reach with clients. When I tell them you have to be kind to yourself, treat yourself as you would a child. Give yourself that kindness, give yourself that space to grow, to make mistakes, to come back, to explore, to create. With kids, we are always like that. We're so generous, we encourage them. With ourselves, we don't. What's happening there? It's unbelievable. So I think we are all children. We have to remember that. Everyone is a child in their heart. Remind yourself of that. This is, about that space and about that perspective. But I think in the end, if I want to make a summary of these trips, I think they are all related. Everything for me is more or less related. But you wake up early in the morning to visualize and create a day that you want to bring to yourself. You take control of that day and you prepare yourself for the day ahead. And then throughout the day, you bring mindfulness into your actions, into what you're saying to others, into how you present yourself to others on a regular basis, as often as you can. And then also when you have the opportunity, remind yourself, look, I'm on a journey, we're all on a journey. Bring that perspective, open up things. Allow yourself to explore and be kind whilst doing that. It's a lot there, but I hope it makes sense to people. I hope.
Thank you so much, Silvana. It does make sense. Thank you for being part of the Everyday Life Balance Show and for taking the time today to share with our listeners your tips on how to create more balance on a daily basis.
It's always a pleasure, Pascale. You know that. And congratulations for what you're doing. I think you're doing a wonderful job. So
thank you so much. I'm very grateful.
Speak soon then.
All right, speak soon. Take care. Bye-bye. Aren't they all amazing? I hope that you enjoyed the various ways you can create more balance in your life from Chris James, who is now a father and whose perspective on life has totally changed, to Ivona Gordon, who is going through a radical change in her life, and to Silvana Avram, who recommends a more mindful way of living and to regain control over your life. I would like to thank you, Chris, Ivona, and Silvana for your input. What transpires is that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. Therefore, it's important that you cultivate a daily holistic well-being practice so that you can maintain spiritual, emotional, and physical balance. I have a disclaimer regarding the content of today's episode. If you are thinking of embarking on a gluten-free, on the cleanse or intermittent fasting diet, please remember to seek professional guidance before you do so. Okay, now as promised, it's time to announce the special prize. The first 3 people who subscribe to the Everyday Life Balance Show today will receive a free signed copy of my best-selling book, Yes to Love, the ultimate guide to personal transformation for everyday life balance. To receive your free copy, just send an email to Pascale at pascalegibon.com. That's Pascale at pascalegibon.com. And write in the subject line, I have subscribed to ELB. I have subscribed to ELB. The first 3 people to hit the send button will be the lucky winners. Good luck. Thank you again from the bottom of my heart for subscribing to the Everyday Life Balance Show. I celebrate your happiness, joy, and success every single day. If you love this episode and you would like to find more ways you can create balance in your life, don't forget to check my website where you can download the first 2 chapters of my book, Yes to Love. I look forward to connecting with you next Monday. As always, remember, now is your time to transform your life one step at a time. Have a great week, lots of love, and take care. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you for reviewing and rating the Everyday Life Balance podcast on iTunes. And thank you for subscribing to this podcast so that you can continue to get training each time I release a new episode. I look forward to connecting with you next week. And as always, yes, you can dream it, create it, live it.